आज नहीं पता क्या रजिस्टर टीवी को भी देखते और जामा का सिस्टम नामा है और उनका भी ये वर्जन का भी रखती है आप रहोगे दोनों चलो
ولا قوة إلا بالله العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا حجة الله. حي على السلام. حي على السلام. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم عجل قلبي بارا بلسان واستنكار وانجل محمد المصطفى المختار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز شأن كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فاني ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خلقت العباد وإليه المعاد ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة خير يرى ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شر يرى نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يؤدب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيء عدل وعفوه تفضل أن محمد سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين صلى الله عليه وآله البداة المهديين من ركب سفينة النجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرقا وهو أوصيكم عباد الله بالاتسام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة الوثقى فقد قال علي بن الحسين عليهم الصلاة والسلام وأما حق الهدي فأن تخلص بها الإرادة إلى ربك صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah as is the best of provisions. We begin this Friday on a very solemn note where there was a twin bombing that took place in the Iraqi capital of Baghdad, which claimed close to 32 lives, and over 100 people have been wounded because of that. Once again, this is in 3 years, the first of its kind with this magnitude where it has taken multiple lives. And so alhamdulillah, things were going well up until this point. But the people who had taken the responsibilities, of course, ISIS has claimed the responsibility for this. And they don't want the stability that was happening in Iraq and how the country was getting back to normalcy. And although we are all already in the midst of this pandemic, while things are much better over there and under control as far as the pandemic is concerned, still this comes as a very shock to how people go back to their normal lives, and the things were relaxed as far as the security is concerned. Now they're going to have to beef up the security. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those individuals who lost their lives in this continuous battle, and the bereaved family for the loss that they have suffered. You know, there may be brothers in them, there might be fathers in them, there might be, you know, husbands in them. And so there are many widows, there are many, children who are now become orphans because of this blast. So think about all of those people and those who are still recovering from the wounds that they have suffered, who were, you know, it's unfortunate that when you read this news, you heard, I'm sure you saw it as well, that the 32 lives that are lost, most of them died on the spot. The difficulty of recovering from this loss. The khutbah that I wanted to present today, I know the internet is acting up a little bit, so hopefully our online audiences can, I guess it's back on again. So it got disconnected. I recited the first few lines from the kalam of our fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salatu wassalam, which is in Risalatul Huquq, the treatise on rights. And this is the right of the offering or the sacrifice. Imam said, and the right of the offering is that through it you purify your will toward your Lord. So the sacrifice is given in order to purify your will, your desire, your wants, and whatever it is that you wish for. So you're purifying it. Now, of course, Imam is referring towards the sacrifice which is given, on specific occasions, like after Eid al-Qurban, Eid al-Adha, the sacrifice that is given. Those who are Hajj, the sacrifice that they have to give. Or, for example, on Aqiqah, when you perform the Aqiqah of your children, usually it is recommended, it's sunnat muakkada, to do it on the 7th day after the birth of the child, to sacrifice an animal. And all these things are, this Aqiqah is something which is mustahab to perform, to the extent that it is mustahab that even when a child grows up, realizes that his Aqiqah was not performed, he should go ahead and do it on his own. For some reason, he said, well, my parents were neglectful of it, or they didn't do it. That's how big of a mustahab it is. So what it is basically removes the bala and keeps, these, ailments away from the child. And of course, when the aqiqah is done, the hair is removed, if there are any hair on the child, and sadaqah is given on the weight of the hair that is removed. If it weighs equal to silver, and whatever the monetary value of that is, you go ahead and give that as the sadaqah, and inshallah, this serves as the protection for the newborn. So on that, there's a sacrifice that is given. Or for example, you make another that if, for example, you make another for your loved one who's sick. You say, well, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them health. If Allah gives them health, inshallah, I will sacrifice an animal and feed the poor, for example. So these sort of nadar and nuzurat, they become obligatory to perform. So Imam says, and the right of the offering is that through it, you purify your will toward your Lord and expose yourself to his mercy. When we talk about this concept of hada in Arabic, Imam says, وَأَمَّا حَقُّ الْهَدِيِ. Hadi is the sacrificial animal that is given. He says the word hada means offering, is used to refer to the sacrifice made for the holy pilgrimage to the Kaaba. As we read in Surah Baqarah, that وَلَا تُحْلِقُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ الْهَدِيَ مَحِلَّهُ. That do not shave your heads until the sacrifice has reached its place of offering. And that is, basically telling us the step-by-step acts and the rituals of the performance of Hajj. And also another place in Surah Namal, it says, when this is called an offering, since it is like a gift from the word hadi, the word hadiyah or hadiyah is also comes from the same root, which means to give a gift. It's like a gift, give to others after they sacrifice it. This is similar to the present that the Queen of Sheba sent to Hazrat Sulaiman, when she said in that, or the ayat of Quran refers towards that, وَإِنِّي مُرْسِلَةٌ إِلَيْهِمْ بِهَدِيَّةٍ. Said, I will send them a gift and see what the envoy brings back. So of course she was trying to lure into giving these gifts to Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu. And I think about a month ago, I had a discussion on one of the Shab Jumah program about Hazrat Sulaiman and Hazrat Ibrahim, where I compared the two prophets, one a very rich prophet, the other not so rich, rather a poor prophet. And so Hazrat Sulaiman was amongst the richest of the prophets. Why? Because he demanded Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him a mulk, which no one has ever seen before. And he was given, all the control over the animals. He was able to speak their language and had many other things that he had in his possession. So he was a very rich prophet. And when Queen of Sheba sent these hadaya, these gifts to him, they had basically no worth in front of what Hazrat Sulaiman possessed. So they had sent gold and silver, right? So she was trying to impress him. So it sent gold and silver. In Qasas al-Anbiya, it narrates, and I mentioned this in that speech, that upon that Hudhud, when he brought the news that this is what she's sending towards you as the hadiyah, as the gift in the form of gold, what did Hazrat Sulaiman order? He said, until that hadiyah comes to us, let's go ahead and pave everything into gold. So even the stables where the animals were there, they paved everything into gold. Even where the waste of the animal was, being thrown away, that was also turned into the gold, places, or, where the waste of the animal was, thrown away. So when these hadaya came, these people saw that we brought gold for them, and there's gold all over the place. Even their stables are made of gold. This hadiyah that we have brought has no value in front of what Suleiman possesses. So they they left their hadaya back, and that's how they entered into the court of Hazrat Suleiman. So that's when Queen of Sheba, who is the queen of a place, her gifts have no value in front of a Nabi who shows off his power. Then just imagine what our gifts would have the value in front of the king of all the kings, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we give this hadiyah, this sacrificial animal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts it. So therefore, there's nothing bigger than that sacrificial animal that is given in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially if it goes out to what? Feed those who are in need. So we see the sacrifice, the second obligatory act in Mina for those who go to pilgrimage is to send an offering for sacrifice. This offering is intended to be an act to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, this is something where insan is trying to do actions for qurbatan ilallah. And of course, all of our actions are in reality qurbatan ilallah. In this verse, the ayat number 196 of Surah Baqarah, it says, when you have security for those who enjoy release from the restrictions by virtue of their umrah until the hajj, let the offering be such as is feasible. Talks about the concept of giving the sacrificial animal. A lot of time when we go to hajj, unfortunately last year there was no hajj, and hopefully this year, if the pandemic is under control, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is accessible again to the public outside. Hopefully we can go and perform this hajj, because it is one of the most important of the ibadat. You remember the wasiyat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi, where he mentions when he was struck by the sword of Ibn Muljim, la'natullah alayhi, he mentioned, Wallah, Wallah, by God, the house of Allah, Baytullah. Don't abandon the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you abandon the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you won't, and Imam gives the explanation as to what will happen. He said, don't abandon, for example, Quran, lest those who are not well versed in Quran, they take, they excel in it before you do. Don't leave the house of Allah. So this will happen to you. So that's a very interesting khutbah, or rather the wasiyat of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. So go ahead and read that as well. There, Imam mentions how important it is not to abandon the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we were not able to go last year, but hopefully those who plan on going, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them the opportunity. So in this verse, God has spoken of the offering 3 times. The first occasion is concerned with the situation where you are in the service of God, but you are prevented from completing it because of getting ill. So a lot of time what happens, the person is unable to perform the wajibat of hajj and umrah properly, and when you're unable to do so, there is a penalty for that, and that serves as the sacrifice. Second occasion is on the day of celebration, when you shave the head, and after the ritual of stoning the devil, it is not allowed to shave until the offering is sacrificed. So that is the ritual of hajj. Those who have gone, they probably remember it. If you have the recollections of it, that on the day, which is the 10th of Zul-Hijjah, which is usually celebrated over here as Eid, but there's no Eid over there, right? You're in the middle of this land wearing this ihram. There's no clothes for Eid. Your Eid is to go ahead and strike the shaitan, and not the physical shaitan, but the shaitan which is inside. It's just symbolic to hit that shaitan, and then when you come back, you wait until the sacrifice is done on your behalf, and then go ahead and remove the hair from your head. And the third case is when you are in peaceful condition again, sending an offering for sacrifice in Mina in the certain day, or it's a duty of any pilgrim who wants to participate in the pilgrimage ceremonies. So this is something which we see that how important it is as far as the sacrifice is concerned. I don't want to take too much of your time. I'll conclude that our 6th Imam, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi wasallam, has quoted on the authority of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who said, "Innama ja'ala Allahu hadha al-adha that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established this sacrifice in order that your poor may have ample meat to eat. Therefore, give them the meat to eat. And of course, meat here is because that's what one of the things that is derived from the animal, but all the other parts of the animal which are usable, they should be used, especially to give it to those who are in need. Abi Basir narrated that he told our sixth Imam, what is the reason for offering this sacrifice? And then Imam gives the reason. He says, the sins of the one who's offering it will be forgiven when the first drop of blood of the sacrificed animal falls on the ground. So don't take this for granted. I knew many of the scholars in Qum and as well in Najaf, but primarily in Qum, who had such a great aqidah and i'tiqad and belief on sacrifice that for anything, if it was possible for them nowadays, maybe the price of animals has gone beyond the reach of some people, ordinary people, but when it was within their reach, for anything that they wanted to accomplish, they would go ahead and either fast. Fasting was the easiest thing because it's accessible to everyone and there really isn't any cost to it. And second, the i'tiqad was to sacrifice an animal. And so there are a lot of orphanages around the world, especially when you come from the parts of world like Pakistan, Iran, India, Afghanistan. There are many places over there where there are orphanages where you can go ahead and supply this sacrificial animal. And that is one of the quickest way of getting that halal wish that you have to be, for example, answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So every time I've seen this, noticed it from the, our ulama, scholars rather, that whenever they would have anything that would be impending, something which is where they're stuck and they're unable to go beyond it, one of the ways was to go ahead and make the nazar of the sacrifice, and that would bring it true. So Imam said what? He said, the sins of the one who is offering will be forgiven when the first drop of blood of the sacrificed animal falls on the ground. It also means that by which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets to know those who fear him in the unseen. God Almighty has said, it is neither their meat nor the blood that reaches him. Right? La yanala Allah luhumuha wala dima'uha walakin yanaluhu taqwa minkum. It's not the blood or the flesh that reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the khulus by which you have sacrificed this animal. Now, one place the animal is sacrificed, another place humans are sacrificed. Again, reminding ourselves of this great tragedy that took place just a couple of days ago in Baghdad, the twin bombing, as I had mentioned earlier. We mourn for those whose lives were taken, and inshallah, they're counted amongst the shuhada in this continuous battle. And we know the first two drops of the sacrificed animal forgive the sins of the person who's sacrificing. The first drop of shaheed on the ground forgives not only his sins, but the sins of his generations, up to 7 generations in some riwayat. So hopefully their lives are not gone in vain. And we make dua that those who are behind this heinous crime, they are brought to justice. Inna ahsan hadith, wa ablagh al-mu'idha kitabullahi, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, wal asri, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat, wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحليم الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم سبحان من سبقت رحمته وذبه وسط اليدين بالرحمة سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وعفى عن السيئات ولم يجاز بها سبحان من لا يزداد ولا معصي لبعد إلا كرمه وجوده ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا فهو وصفها نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف على العباد بجوده ولفاض المذنبين بحلمه ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا لسفيه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليه وآله وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبذات خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها وعلى الحسن المجتبى وعلى الحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان ما هي آثار البدء والطغيان هادم أبنية الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آبائه الكرام ما اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمرائنا المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات والزياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أهل ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهل بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يذكر فتنفعه الذكر إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.